AI is winning in court. It's incredible. In just the last week alone, I've had two separate videos just blow up on my feeds because they were all about how AI is being used to win in court. And for those who watch my videos and follow my podcast, you know that what I talk about is winning in high stakes environments. And you can't get much more high stakes than court. One video really caught my attention. It kind of got me thinking about my own experience actually starting with AI was right around a court case. So 2 years ago, it was 3 years ago, I actually had to go to court for about 5 separate appearances for something that was really important to my family. And, I could have sat there and went, okay, well, I'll just hire a lawyer, let them lead and whatever else. But I have this little bit of a thing in my own mind where I just feel like I can do things. When people tell me I should do it a certain way, I need to find my own path. And this was right around the time where I just discovered ChatGPT and large language model AI, LLMs as some people call it. And I felt like this was the time for me to leverage what I was already doing in sales and real estate. I was doing M&A transactions, and I was already using ChatGPT to read large legal documents, to surface different information. And that is really vital to what I was doing. And I thought, why don't I just apply this to court and see how it goes? I have to admit, I didn't do it all through AI. It was not just an AI plus me in court kind of thing. I had the incredible resources afforded to me in my local city where I had access to lawyers that wouldn't give you technical legal advice, but they would give you strategy consultations and make sure that you're filling out the right documents in the right way, which was very, very valuable for me because obviously me, not a practicing licensed lawyer, and AI tool, it's not really enough to win in court. You have to actually know what you're doing, fill out the proper forms, follow the proper procedures. I was very lucky to have these people in my corner and help me actually get there. So what I did was I started out by talking to these legal assistants, started with human strategy. Here's my case. Here's what I have to do. And this is when my court appearance is. And then they would help me craft a strategy of like where I need to look, what I need to think about, what evidence I need to provide, and then also what forms to fill out. This was really vital. After that, I would go home with all of my documents in hand, and I would use ChatGPT to read all of these expansive PDFs, read my case, the hearing notes, and everything that was in there. And I would build my case actually through ChatGPT. I got it to ask me specific questions about my case, specific experiences that were out there, so that it was very clear what I needed to do, what I needed to say, and how it needed to help me. And then I also used it to edit. If I made assumptions in my case, I would ask it to read it again. So I would start a new chat as if it's a whole new thing and start it all over again. Tell me what risks am I facing? Tell me what am I missing? Tell me what am I supposed to do here that isn't covered already in my court documents. I would also get the editor to read over the hearing notes and all of the different things that I had to know. So the orders that the judges made and all of this stuff, so that I was very tied directly to exactly what I needed to for that next court appearance. And then I would go back to the court, talk to the legal counsels, and I would get them to go over my case and make sure everything was accurate, everything was legal, and that I had the right forms, signatures, and all that, just before I physically filed them down at the court clerk. And what was really cool, actually really, really important, obviously, I actually had to represent myself in court, talk to the other side's lawyer, talk to the judges, and follow all those cool procedures that you see in the movies and TV. And I actually did pretty well. Luckily, I was able to communicate very clearly, and I had such a strong case that by the time I even showed up at court, competing counsel already knew what I was going to say. The judges knew what I was going to say. So I had this really, really strong case that kind of fed my ability to be good in that courtroom. And I'm proud to say that I actually won 4 out of 5 court appearances. The 5th one hurt. The 5th one was a direct result of me having the ego of winning those first 4 cases, because I thought, hey, I'm really good at this. I'm communicating myself clearly, and every judge is going to be the same way as the last 4 judges. And you know what? It wasn't. If I had been an experienced lawyer, if I hired an experienced lawyer, they would have been able to tell me that you can never count on the judge making your case for you. You can never count on competing counsel to make the case for you. So it was my lack of experience, lack of understanding, a little tiny bit of ego that really cost me that 5th appearance. And what it taught me, though, was these 3 lessons that were really important. Is number 1, I relied too much on the data. I relied too much on a system giving me everything I needed to know about a court appearance, where that system wasn't going to be there with me in court. I had to do it myself from my own brain. So I relied too much on the system. The second thing is that I was trying my best. It was an experiment. It was a risky experiment, but I tried to avoid all costs, every single dollar. So I tried to do everything I could to get a free court case. That was a real big problem for me, because if I would have spent just a few $100s, a few $1,000s, I could have got the A+ legal defense, where I probably would have won that fifth court case myself. And the third thing was the ego. Because I won 4 cases in a row, or court appearances in a row, I really had that thought that what I was doing was right. The way I was doing it was right. And I wasn't really recognizing that these judges were kind of taking pity on me, that I didn't know the full courtroom decorum. I didn't know every single thing out there. And I was relying on advisors and systems and what have you to kind of fill in the blanks. But again, without those systems, without those advisors with me in court, I had to do it for myself, from my own mind, heart, and experience. If I did it again, I would absolutely hire a lawyer for certain court appearances, especially the more difficult ones. And I would have still built my own case in the exact same way I did it. I would have done that through a paid lawyer who could actually give me that proper legal advice without running into trouble. That brings me to why you're listening to this. Why does this matter to you? I'd like you to think about this in any situation, any employee that you have, any business deal that you're working on, anything. In your business, there are a series of different workflows that really can be done by a system. It can be done better than even outsourcing. But it's really important to think of these 4 things that I learned throughout this entire process. And this is the process now that I run in everything that I do when I'm thinking about technology. So AI, automation, any type of tech that I introduce. First I start with the challenge. What challenge am I facing in my business that can be outsourced? Okay. Anybody who knows me knows that I run a company that is about outsourcing research for sales. Okay. That's one of my companies. And that is a literal outsourced service. But you're not just outsourcing a person. Think about, of all of the things that you could outsource so that you don't have to do it yourself, think of which ones need to be done by a human being, like showing up in court, and which ones suit a system better. Something that suits like machine learning, reasoning, the kind of stuff that you get from AI. So that's really important. Circle those ones. Okay. Then what controls need to be in place to be successful? Now, I mentioned I was getting AI to do long legal documents. I was getting it to cite specific acts that were vital to me getting a judge to sign in my direction. Now, what controls I put in place? Very, very simple. It's verifying every single thing that it sends me. If it's referencing a statute or a specific section of an act, I would read it over myself in addition to the AI interpretation, just so that I know for a fact that it exists, it's real. I'm not going to be getting in trouble by referencing something that doesn't even exist or the AI just made up. So these are just simple controls, but I'm confident that you'll understand which controls actually need to be considered when you're doing these types of things. The last one is, what outcome is acceptable? In my case, the only acceptable outcome was that I won the court case. This was really, really important for me, my family, and everybody involved. I needed to win. I took a risk where I shouldn't have when I needed to win. And ultimately, 4 out of 5 is not bad, but I really, really, really should have won that 5th one. And I could have if I followed these rules right from the beginning. You've heard my story. This isn't just me that's done this. There's a real UK case of a freelancer who actually won in court by following these 4 rules, just like I said. She used AI for prep work so that when she showed up in court, she had a very strong case that had all of the references and everything that she needed in order to be successful. And then she hired a licensed human representation. So she had a barrister to represent her in court. So she did what I didn't do. She still did the prep case just like I did, but she also hired that legal representative to actually represent her in court. Genius move. And she kind of followed my improved plans, the plan that I learned after making that mistake in the first place. And she ended up winning her court case. And she did it in a legal way, because having licensed representation is the most legal and good way to do this, because having legal representation is required in a lot of court cases. And in all honesty, it's really what you should be doing. Let's look at her case now through the 4 items that we referenced earlier. Number one, what process can or should be outsourced? Now, this freelancer was not a lawyer. She had to outsource the entire process of her entire legal case. Which tasks suit AI better? Well, even though she hired a lawyer, research, reasoning, referencing tasks, referencing acts and sections and all that stuff, that is actually better done by AI now that AI models are advanced as they are. And the research and the prep work was done through her system so that her legal representative had all of the information needed at the fingertips so that she could be properly represented in court. What controls? Well, she had to have licensed representation. She's not a lawyer. She had to have a lawyer that was licensed and able to speak in court. And what was the outcome? Well, she had to win. And again, court cases are really nice. They're binary. It's win or lose. But in your business, there's a lot of different outcomes that you could expect. Could it be better work, faster work, cheaper work? These are outcomes that you really need to think about in your head in order to get to the end result that you're looking for. I want to sign off by saying, I'd like you to apply these 4 questions on any task that you can think of. And I want you to prioritize those that take a lot of time away from your valuable work and sometimes prevent you from doing valuable work. Those are the areas where you want to start with. And I want you to follow those 4 steps, really identify what can be outsourced, what makes sense, and what should probably be done with AI or automation. And then I want you to put controls on it. So again, in my case, it was very simple controls. I had a rule that said I need to manually verify every single thing that was in place. You don't necessarily have to have that type of control. You can have anything that you'd like, but it has to be that you need to produce significant, consistent results. Okay, that our accuracy is so important here. And then finally, ensure it achieves a goal that you have. If you're trying to take a task away from a human being who does their job really well and give it to a machine, you have to make sure that you're not just saving money, but you're also actually delivering a result that's as good or better than that person could have done. Otherwise, you're really just wasting time, and you're going to end up like so many companies out there that take tasks away from humans in favor of new technology and then end up having to spend all the money and the time again to go get those people back if they're even available. I want you to be really careful with that. In my case, I couldn't afford to get half the result. I needed to get the full result. I needed to win or loss. I'm sure that in your business, there are high stakes decisions that have to happen as well. And you're going to have to make those decisions as well. And it's not really just about efficiency. You don't get efficiency by doing a task worse that is cheaper. You get efficiency by doing a task at the same or a higher level at a lower overall cost. Remember that. Savings are only valuable if you get better results. My challenge for you at the end of the day is, how can you apply this to your business? What tasks can you think of to cover those 4 decisions? Love to hear about it. Let me know in the comments.